Welcome everyone. So this is going to kind of be an introduction to Heavypaint and a demo at the same time. More a demo, a little bit less an introduction. So let me go over some basic things. I have my front button, the button closest to the tip of my pen, set to middle click for zooming in and out. Just hover the pen above the pad and move your hand back and forth to zoom in and out. That's as small as you can get it, unfortunately. For the back button, the button closest to the back of the pen, I have it set to undo, which also, so I can undo it. Used to be it would crash. You did a bunch of undos. Now that problem has been solved, which is great. There's also the autosave feature is improved. To move this around, so I have my left hand set to the left side of my keyboard for everything I basically need. That's how I like to set it up, so I don't have to search all over the keyboard to do things. So my caps lock button is very easily accessible, is what I can use to pan it around. Okay, and I can zoom in, like I said, with that top button. So I can line this up. I resize this to 1920 by 1080, and this is just one of those Windows screensavers that I screenshotted. Screenshot, how do you say that? So, what I love about this app, notice over here you can increase the size or decrease. I guess you could do this and like have it over. You can grab it on the top. It's situated over here. But the way I like to generally have it is, okay, that appears to be a bug. Oh crap. Really doing this? So much for a demo. Ugh. Well, that's, oh, can you do, oh, okay. I was like, what's going on? So you gotta find it. It's kind of hidden down here. You can change the background color, canvas color here, to whatever you want. Oh, that's the canvas color. And then for the UI color, you can change it like this. I prefer black, easier on the eyes. And for the canvas, I don't know, maybe something like mid-gray. It's okay for now. So these are your tools. You've got your mix mode, which here's your size slider. I have my A and D button set up to adjust size. So D increases size, A decreases it. It's a little bit slow, so it's often easier to just go here, unless you want to kind of fine tune it like this. The buttons also conveniently there. So mix kind of blurs one color into another. So here's your erase tool. Also, if you want to, an easier way, if you're working in another tool, to use the erase button, just hold the control key, and it acts as an eraser, but for that particular tool. So now I'm using the charcoal, which is this tool here, as an eraser. Cool. Just don't touch anything if it goes like that, and it'll come back. It used to crash you out so easy. It doesn't usually do that. It's actually really good about not doing that these days. So I have created a lot of my own textures, which is awesome about this program. I use transparency and alphas and all that to create See, here's your color dynamics. You get some crazy noise. I like to turn that all the way down, and I design my brushes to, some of them, to have some built-in color. Let's see if I can find an example of that, like over here. It's not so apparent. It's probably because the texture saturation needs to be up all the way in order to, I like to have that up all the way. I've advocated that he make it like adjustable by pin pressure, which would be awesome. You get more texture saturation if you press harder, but maybe in the future. So this is one option. So every one of these are different. A lot of them I just adjusted a little bit, enhance the effect, so it's the same basic brush. But I like to work. I did most of these in with the oil tool in mind. That was an actual thick paint texture I was experimenting with. Some of these are really, really nice. Like you can see, I can get some kind of almost like real thick paint kind of looking strokes. There's better examples of those in some of these, but I tried to get some of that effect on all these. So anyway, that's and you have to play around to kind of figure out how to do that. But taking some other brushes that are good, like the concept art realm, and adjusting them, messing with them and creating an alpha of them. You can look at how to do all that and make your own brushes in Heavypaint. It appears I'm frozen again. See if this helps. Okay. So that's what I was expecting. I like the fill tool being used for the erase. I don't know why I did this before. Oh, yeah. So the standard erase is like the fill tool. So the fill is like, oh, and if you erase, some of your background stuff will show, like you can see I erased an image of a landscape. You can see it in the background there. So that's one thing you can kind of take advantage of if you want. It's a little bit annoying, but it can be. You can also use it for your advantage. So this is the fill button, the fill tool, and kind of cool. If you want just like a flat, you can go to the square, and that just gives you your flat. So you can just kind of design shapes. You can go to fill poly. So the more tools are over here, and where's fill? Here's fill poly. Fill gradients, fill poly. So you click the heart to the left of it, and it'll show up. So fill poly, what it does is you can like flip like this, or you can drag it. So it's like one stroke, like this. And so that's kind of cool. You can either get by tapping, get these kind of polygons, or go like that. So I guess that's why it's poly. It doesn't anything. Fill lasso is so you can. I guess it's different from. I don't know exactly how it's different from the regular fill stretch. I don't know. It seems to operate in basically the same way. Anyways, fill gradient is a nice one where you can get like sun, like a sun glare or something. You kind of have that. Like I said, I usually like the oil paint. Sometimes I like the charcoal. You can see how it's got that orientation like that. You can adjust that here, and you click the tool. You have a lot of different options in here you can play with. But generally, I leave this here. Chalk is a cool one. It's kind of, you might want something a little more sparse like this. I'm not liking how that's, go to the next, go to a new page. Okay. Caps lock and move it. Zoom it out. You see, it looks like it's the same aspect ratio, so that'll be good. So you got a dry brush, pencil tool. There's also a draw tool. It's like more of a pencil in Photoshop. You have a rectangle tool. Yeah, it just does these rectangles. So you have some different smudge options. Smudge pastel, smudge dry, smudge thick, smudge is the standard smudge. So that's cool. But also, if you want to access it on the fly, you can just hold down the, say if you're in the oils, doing whatever, hold down the shift key and your tool becomes a smudge tool. Yeah, and if you hold the Alt key, it becomes a blur. No, I think I had that backwards. Alt is the smudge. So let's check it in hotkeys. Alt is the blur tool. I was right the first time. Shift is the smudge tool. So it just toggles it on so that you can access that, which is quite cool. Like if I'm in charcoal, you just hold down the shift key and then immediately go right back to drawing, go back, or do the blur tool with the Alt key. And then if I hold the the control key, I'm in erase mode with that tool. You can also go into another tool while I'm still holding down control and erase with that tool, and do that as many tools that I want. So that can be cool. There's the blur tool that you can access with that Alt key. So you got a new liquify tool, which is similar to smudge, but which is pretty neat. So yeah, I got Hatch. I have this set to a Marco Bucci brush that I love, and you can get a real similar, basically the same the way I set it up. I just screenshotted an example of his, screenshotted the dots and recreated it. So I always thought that was a really fun brush. So I think you got a line tool. So and like I said, there's more options you can check out, a lot more in here if you want to just go through some of those. But over here you have the layers panel, and so here you can move layers up and down. You can access the transform tool here, where you can so I'm not sure why that's, because it's just on that layer. So if I went down here to this one, this zooms it out, zooms it in, and this is a vector program, so you can also just move it around. Okay, this is a vector program, which is cool, so that you can resize it. And like say I want it, instead of 1920 by 1080, I want it twice as large or even 3 times as large. You just hit 2 times here, and boom, with no loss of quality, I have just duplicated this canvas twice as large with no loss of quality. So you can do a quick sketch on a smaller size, say 1920 by 1080, and then blow it up halfway through your work to 2 times the size, and then before you finish, blow it up 3 times and put it into another program like Photoshop. Photoshop or whatever and continue working on quite a large, well-developed piece. You don't have to worry about the lag you can experience in some of those other programs at a large size. So, all that to say, let's get started with drawing. There is a few other things. You got black and white over here. This is where you go to your new pages, your old pages. You can export open, there's some stats if you're interested in that. You can delete it. While it's loading like this, you can just hit this button and it'll load it. It'll skip the preview of actually seeing the whole thing. So it'll still sometimes take a second to load up. But I'm in black and white mode, I guess. That's basically the gist of everything. So you can set up your tablet buttons if you'd like to be handy, so you don't even have to have your hands on the keyboard. Very user-friendly program. You can set the keyboard shortcuts to whatever you want, basically on your keyboard. And like I said, I like to have it. I like to have it so that it's all on the left-hand side. So, all that said, let's have some fun with color. Okay. Now I'm seeing a very cool tone. So let's just get that locked in. I love this big circle. It really lets you see the tone that you want. Okay? Seeing something like a little more purple. Okay? Good. Now I'm getting a more of a, let's try to fill poly. Let's try to block in okay, if you hit the space bar, you get the eyedropper tool, which is handy. You used to have an instant, where is it? Space bar. Space bar is eyedropper. There used to come up a tool that would, with a flip horizontal, set that up to Shift Control W. We used to have a tool that you could change the color on the fly. It's weird that I'm not seeing that option for that now. It's probably here, but I'm just not seeing it. No matter, it's not that big of a deal. Every time you pick a new color, you have a new polygon. Okay, I really don't use this tool a lot. I'm more comfortable just using one of my oil paints. Find something that looks kind of nice. Okay, so that's something a little more solid than that. Okay, do that. Now down here, I want something a little more blue, something a little more purple. Down here we have a little more pink, right? A little more pink light. Right in here, maybe a little lighter. Okay, now over here, what color do we have? It's kind of a greenish blue, isn't it? Dark. Let's throw some of that in. Get it really dark. Even darker, more desaturated. Darker. Decrease the size. Now over here, it's going to be, so look back and forth at the color you're matching. And this is how, just subtle adjustments, this is how you can find the color that you need. Okay? Now over here, you're going to have this pink color. It's also going to go to a warm gray in this cool context. Just a straight gray will be warm because of the relativity of color. Okay? So you don't want to nitpick too much, but look at these green colors in here. What color is that? It's going to be a yellowish greenish gray, right? Darker. We're going to throw those in there. And this is, it may seem kind of like magic how I'm able to pick those so fast, but I promise you, if you spend some time, a lot of time, but yeah, spend some time trying to match colors and do just this in photo studies and art studies, you too will gain a lot of proficiency very quickly, actually. It used to be thought, and many still believe, that color sense is an inborn gift. You either got it or you don't. And I don't really subscribe to that at all, because the color sense I have now, and you know, I didn't have when I first started doing these studies digitally. It took me a long time to even get close. Now this water seems like it's going to be something kind of like a little darker, maybe, a little lighter. You're not always going to hit it right off the bat. Sometimes it takes some finagling, and that's okay. Right? Using that space bar, select your eyedropper tool, and work those colors into each other. Once you have a good selection of colors down, you don't really need to go to the color picker for that area. Notice how with just these couple of colors, I've already suggested very well this piece. And now you want to look back and forth to get your drawing down. Now what color is this back here? This is going to be a pinkish reddish color like that, right? But that's too dark. That's too dark. Here we're getting close. Needs to be a little more desaturated. Now we're in the ballpark. Okay? That fog is neutralizing that color. Here we're going to have a little section here, and then let's get for that yellow. Get some of that yellow in there. It's going to be lighter. Lighter, looking back and forth, maybe a bit more desaturated. Okay, and then looking at this shape. Now, what needs to be done, what is done, and what needs to be done. Art is like making love. It's not something you do just to get to the end of it as fast as possible. It's not about the finished product, although it is lovely to see your finished work, and frame it or print it off or whatever the case may be, depending on your media. That's awesome. But the real point of art is in the process, and it's enjoying the process. just like making love. It's really being in the moment and deriving the most satisfaction you can in every moment. And really, Emerson had a line in one of his works that said, every touch should thrill. That's kind of the poet's attitude, being out in nature, maybe touching a tree, touching some plants, just being a part of it, in a foggy scene like this, and just being one with nature. That's kind of a very poetic viewpoint. The artist, he should also have that sensibility about him, or she, but also, for the artist, you want every sight should thrill. Everything you see through your eyes should thrill your soul, and every color you choose should thrill, and every stroke you make should thrill and excite and delight you. And that is the mark of a colorist, of an artist, and nothing can take that away from you. Now for this background part, I'm seeing like a gray down yellow, something like this. Let's go ahead and lay it across. If I can make a straight line, I have my tablet on my lap. Let me see if I can do this a little bit better here. Probably using another tool like the line tool would be better. With digital, you can always paint over it, so getting perfection is not so necessary. Now there's going to be some hints of this blue, so I'm just tapping the pen on the tablet. Okay. Now what color is in here? That's like a neutral gray. Maybe a little bit warmish. Let's throw some of that in there. Over here, we have a reddish brown. We also make our size small. We also have a little bit of blueness over here. The water is showing through. You don't have to know what it is you're painting. That's a beautiful thing. When somebody once said to see, and this is truly seeing like an artist sees, to see, they say this is attributed to Paul Valery. I believe I'm pronouncing his name right, but to see is to forget the name of the thing one sees. So when we just lose that thinking of, oh, this is a tree I'm painting, this is water, and just look at the color, just look at the shape, beautiful things can happen. All right, so let's get some of this background trees. When I'm oil painting, it's very important to think, what is my background color that I'm going to want to paint? Notice it's auto-saving. After some amount of strokes, it'll start auto-saving, which is nice. You'll have it there in your auto-save folder. With oil paint, the question is often, what color do I want to lay down first for the background? Okay, now for these background trees, what color is that? Well, it's much grayer, right? Much grayer, and blue-green. Kind of hunting for it, aren't I? How dark that is. Just test something. Often that's a good strategy. Is just to do a strip of it and see how it feels. Adjust it. Well, that's too purple. So let's select it and then make it a little darker. And I'm liking that. Well, now I need to squint and then see it's lighter than that. So make it lighter. The want to push distance, and to do that, we're going to need the value to be higher than that. Also, let's go over here, make it more gray. Well, that's the wrong temperature. But it seems that over here we do have some of those grays, don't we? Well, what is this color here? It's like a gray down yellow green. Darker than that. Make some suggestions. I'm just having. You don't have to spell everything out. And in fact, the poetry is not spelling everything out, but leaving some things to your viewer's imagination. Let's get a hint. Let's get this color. Whatever is most distinctive, go for that. I have my opacity. This is your opacity slider. So if you want to build something up progressively, you can use that. I'm hitting the back undo button a bunch of times on my back button on my pen. Okay, so this is an airbrush noise. It's set with there are global settings that will apply to every brush, and you can make it global by hitting this thing on anything you want. So if it's not global, it's just for that tool, and it will be unique for every tool. You know, I'm throwing a lot of stuff at you here, but I want this to be useful as an introduction to Heavypaint. Here's your value slider. And this is the sort of thing I used to get up. Oh, there it is. When I hit spacebar, I don't know why it wasn't showing up at first. But I kind of like having that right next to me so that I can quickly, adjust things as needed. So looking over here at that piece, and let me go with that. Increase the size. Okay. Looking at it, yeah, I'm kind of happy with that. I can live with that, as I like to say. Okay. I'm seeing that I need a little bit more of the reddish tones like this. So let's bring a little more red in there. And just grace that strip with these reds. A nice poetic feeling. Okay, now here, notice we have like a little bit brighter. So a little bit grayer. But the value comes up, doesn't it? Value comes up in here. And that's an important thing to document. Also, we get them to the same size, and we see it's a little bit lower down. So, always kind of going back and forth. So, decrease the size, pick something a little darker, and do a little strip on here. You want that to come out here. Okay. Notice I'm ignoring little details like the birds and stuff. It'd be like finishing touches. You can skip around, and that's good to skip around, but save the little details for the end. I'm looking at this kind of purple tone. It's almost gray, got just a bit of purple in it, and it's a little bit dark. So let's see if we can put some of that in. I noticed the value in here considerably darker. So I'm just going to just run some of that in here. We do see a violet color down here. Want it a little more saturated. Want to be able to see a little lighter. And it is purple or pinkish purple. And then I don't want this to be such brilliant blue. I want it to be a little more grayed down, a little more dark, maybe. Trying to get that value. The value is the most important thing. Get your value right, and then you can focus on getting your color right. It is next to impossible to be able to judge the color properly while your value isn't there. Okay, so you definitely want to focus first on getting your value right. Okay, let's come back to this purple, and let's throw it in here. Just working back and forth, working up your whole image. Now, looking at it, I see it's a little bit more brilliant of a blue. Something maybe like that. It's hard to judge without other things in place. That's why I'm doing kind of a large amount of it. But I think that's pretty good in there, actually. So I'm gonna just throw some of that down. Squinting your eyes, excuse me, is a good thing to do. So yeah, it's kind of gray, so I'm getting more grays in there. And then, so we have this blue, right? And the blue's pretty good. Let's get some of the other colors on there. It's not just the blue. So here's where you want to be discriminating, thinking about value, thinking about temperature. Over here we have more the dark. Then we have the green. And on top of it, it's going to be a little lighter, maybe a little grayer. Down in here, a little grayer, a little lighter. It just kind of pops out over the top of the shadows. Then we have it warming up in temperature, warming up, decrease the value, get a little bit of it over here, tops of that. On it more of a subtle effect, so I'm sampling from the blue-green parts. Decrease the size, squinting. I haven't used the smudge tool, have I? Back here where it's foggy is a good place to use that smudge. So I'm holding down the shift key and getting some really nice, beautiful smudge. You wouldn't think that this is a vector program based on the quality of those smudges. But throwing some of those dark shadows in. Unlike oils, the order doesn't really matter that much. It can be easier if you do things in a certain order. But try to do it, try these studies with just one layer. You can do different layers, you have that at your disposal over here, but it's a good practice to treat it like you would a traditional painting. It just trains you. It's sort of like color picking. You're not reliant on all these backups and backups and backups and what layer am I on and all this. It's just direct right there. What color is this? Now we got some really close values, don't we? Well, let's start with what's obvious. This is like a gray, right? So we can throw that in there, see how that feels. And we say, oh, it needs to be a little bit pinkish. So let's come over here to the pink area. Turn it up a little bit. And let's throw a little bit of warmth into it. So now I also see there's some pinkish tones in here. So what I'm going to do is get a bit bigger of a brush. I'm just going to tap the pad like this. Okay. Now let me get some of these greens in here, and they're going to be really grayed down, aren't they? What color are they? Find out. Is that too much? That looks about right to me. Tapping the canvas, so you can see when it's full strength, too much. It means it needs to be more grayed. We're dealing with a very, very grayed down green. Squinting your eyes to make sure your value relationships are right. Put down too much of the gray there. Accidentally sampled. Get that green. And tap, tap, tap. Okay, now we get into a little bit warmer over here on this side. It's also grayer. Just going back and forth, trying to find out where the sweet spot is. You have to trust your intuition when you're doing this. And it doesn't have to be perfectly exactly like the photo. I mean, that's kind of a waste of time in my opinion. Let the photorealist do that. You're after kind of an impression. And that's what I'm trying to do here, is just capture an impression of the scene. So here's where your knowledge comes in handy. I used kind of a pink for these trees, but we know that it's going to be like they're trees, so they're going to be like green. They seem pretty warm, so try a yellowish green, and then you can practice making it the same value. Make it more gray, more gray. Still too gray. When you're going back into the distance, yellow is the first thing that gets filtered out. So notice it's a little bit darker blue in here. So let's sample this blue and get a little bit darker, the value there. So got it up in here. Note that we're already getting a nice impression of the scene. Take this color and get this bush in here. Get a lighter value. Smaller. Tapping. Needs to be grayer. Because it's cool light. Very cool light. So what does that mean about the shadows? They're going to be warm shadows. Right? Very warm. So this warm. Notice I'm kind of jumping around. I'm at the stage now where I can start, suggesting a little bit of detail here and there. Maybe I want to take a more solid piece, and maybe I'll even take something like this and just apply it. Let's get a bit lighter for this purple and just suggest some of those more light cloud reflections in the water. This over here should be a bit darker. That. Okay. Now, we have these plants. I need to make my brush small. And then here's where your, notice it's going in big increments right now. I'm not sure why it's doing it like that, but it can be helpful. Some of these plants are going to be small, some are going to be really small. Just looking at your reference and kind of going based on what feels right. A lot of them are vertical. So I'm doing a lot of curves, but it appears we do have a lot of straight up and down. You want variation. Now we do have some of these purplish, but they're going to be darker. Make this larger. And we need a darker blue. A blue kind of like this. Blue like that. Need it to be in here. This isn't dark enough. Probably not blue enough either. And here we're getting close now. Okay, I don't want scribbles for the water reflection. Here's where I can use my shift tool for the smudge. Actually, not using it like I should. Sure if I should be using it. Perhaps a bit of Alt. The blur tool would be even better. Not sure. Regardless, just go back to painting. Most comfortable painting. Now we have a nice kind of cool gray tone in here, don't we? Let's drop that down in here. We do want to emphasize that grayness. It is a gray day. This will reinforce the gray dayness of the scene. I'm painting over some of my plants here. It's okay. This grayness is reinforced here. I want to get rid of the blocky feeling here. Don't want it to appear too digital. Always trying to not make it appear so digital. If you're going for that effect, it's fine. I'd rather my painting look like a real painting as much as possible. Sort of the Craig Mullins type approach, but painterly. You know, that's where the poetry is. Richard Schmid style. It's realism, but it's also painterly, and that's a beautiful style. So I'm just dropping in more of those tall trees. And over here I can see I need to warm this up. There's more pinks in here. Make it more gray. Just a hint of pinkness. Darken it down. I want it to be relatively at the same value. Darken it down. Gray it down. So just the lightest touch, no pressure on the tablet. Just letting it glance there. And now we're going to shift over to still trying to hunt for those darker blues. We need a little more saturation perhaps, for just a few key points in here, right? That, just a few spots. Now this green is similar to this green, but it's going to be more saturated. Where are we? Okay, so this green is going to be something like this. A little lighter. Right? Something like that. We have these trees coming up. You do want more of the green, a blue-green feel. But it also does have some warmth to it. Varying your color is a good thing. And as long as you're in the right temperature. There are impossible colors, and by impossible colors, and you want to avoid these, they don't necessarily mean like, I don't know, a color redder than this or whiter than this. Not like that. I mean a color that in the context of your scene, in the context of the color harmony dictated by the light and its temperature, its color temperature, there are colors that just simply cannot appear in that scene. And if you try to put them in there, you have invented impossible color. And that, again, unless that's what you're going for, and some, modern abstract artists don't really care, and that's fine. But if you're going for color harmony, you have to watch out for this impossible color. Okay? Now, I don't want to overburden myself in depicting all these details. I do want to suggest them. Just think of how much can be done with suggestion. See, that's an impossible color. I mean, I guess it could appear, but not way back there. Everything is cool, and to get these, you'd be surprised at how, like, this appears green, but look what it is. This appears green, but it's like, it's a teal color. But it's because everything else is so cool in that surrounding environment, going to appear like a green. Like, these are not yellow greens. These are grayed down teals. And so, squinting your eyes, especially notice it gets lighter and lighter back here. Get some interesting shapes, interesting color shapes. And remember, when you're doing atmospheric perspective, first thing to drop out is these yellows and oranges and reds. Notice even this tree is the same kind of color as this, but look at how much yellow is in here as opposed to this. So more distant you get, the more sky color you get. And notice we're going to get a bit more of a yellow, just a bit in here, the really grayed down yellow. It's going to be more of an orange yellow. I'm going to keep going over here until we feel it. Could be it. Gray it down. I might be wrong that it's not even in here. No, that's kind of feeling right. Kind of an orange color. Got to be really subtle. I'm not putting any pressure on that. Now I'm getting more of those blues. So playing with cools and warms. Now I want to emphasize that this is a hill back here, And this little mark right here does do that. This little diagonal, it emphasizes that I'm dealing with a background hill with trees. And then you even go down a little bit, saturation. It even feels a little bit more purple. Probably pressing down too hard. Squinting will tell you if you overstep the bounds of your. Okay, here I'm noticing more. Is it a purple? Is it a purple? Let's throw some of that down. Not using pressure, very light touch. And I'm going over that, mixing it up a little bit, just by selecting the colors and blending them together. Now let's go over here and get a gray-green. Throw some of those in. You see, this isn't as hard as you think it is. And it is such good practice, like it is unbelievable practice. Nowadays, people are, going to these artificial intelligence and all this, and it's really not necessary. I mean, do these studies, get good. Also, do work from imagination. You don't need a computer to substitute for your own imagination. Um, at first, when you're doing works from imagination, you will suck hard. I promise you, because I did, and everybody will when they first start doing works from imagination. If you just keep with it and keep practicing, just making up scenes like this and trying to get a feeling of color and light and harmony, it will quickly become very fun, very, very fun. Like the best time you could have. And almost like being on drugs without being on drugs. And I promise you will get a lot out of it. And you have the pride that this is 100% you. There's no other intermediary that you need as a crutch. And not knocking people who play with that stuff, but I choose to use this I system, not AI, the GI, genuine intelligence, not a regurgitation of previous artists' work. It's good to do master studies. It's not good to get a computer to do master studies for you. I mean, it's not going to help you. And then to go and pass that off as your own work and sell it and win awards and prizes, to me, it's really a sad thing. It is what it is, and I try not to think about it too much because it's kind of depressing what's becoming of the art world. But this has been going on for quite some time, and it'll get worse before it gets better. But meanwhile, we should not give up this fight to perfect our craft, whether it be in the realm of doing studies, whether it be in the realm of doing master studies, painting from life, all that stuff has always been necessary and will always be necessary. There is no real substitute worth bothering for other than actually knocking out a bunch of work, doing a bunch of studies. There is no substitute, and that is the fast track to actually progress as an artist. So that's my rant and my little bit of advice. Take it for what it's worth, or don't take it at all. Okay, rambling, I haven't been focusing as much. A lot of this can be mindless, but try to just, even the mindless parts, try to enjoy enjoying it, what you're doing, that enjoyment will come through. I want to get some of that saturated blues in there. Squinting my eyes because I don't want to overdo it. That's the hard part. These background trees. Doing background trees, whether I'm like landscape painting, with oils, they're always such a challenge to do because I'm like, what the heck color is that? And the reason why they're so challenging is because there's so much gray in them. And the values of the lights and shadows are so close together that these two facts create a very challenging scenario. What's cool in heavy paint is you can set this form or color, you can set it on and off. What is it, accent? No, it's what is it called? It's called the color history. You can turn it off so that everything you pick is just, well, I guess it's still on, but don't know exactly what changes then. Anyways, it's nice to have this because say you're working with this value and then you want another color but you want it at the same value. Just squint your eyes until they seem the same and you found the same value. Oh, I'm in hardcore mode now? How did that happen? Okay, hardcore mode is like where you don't have any eyedropper, don't have any undo, and you don't have any redo. So you have to select every color. You can't go back. It'll give you this error message if you try on your pen. So that can be like some really good practice if you want to go that route. But no thanks for now. I've never actually done it, but it would be good practice. It would be something to do. I'm using a little bit of that blur tool, a little bit of that smudge tool to get some of these values in the water. And this is where it can be really handy. Really handy. Alt, blur, shift for the smudge. Now over here, notice that we have here in the water, we have reflections and they're warm. One thing about reflections, they're always going to be warmer than what they are reflecting. And that's something I noticed recently with amazement. Sometimes you just need more gray to make something more warm. Okay, a little darker. A little darker. And that's feeling good. So I'm going to drop this in here. That needs to be a little more gray. And making this a little bit bigger, like going down, can help because that gives you more room to get more subtle grays. That I should have done early on. So when you do these studies, make it a little bit larger so that you have those choice. And that would be a little muddy if I did that. These warm and cool interplays provide a really nice. Now here we need a little more red. A little more red in there. Yeah. See how nice that feels in the context of everything? Just laying in these grasses, lightly doing vertical strokes, leaving some gaps. And now we see how we have this strip of light. What color is that strip? It's going to be something like that, isn't it? Reduce the size. Always got to figure out how I'm going to do these straight lines. I struggle with straight lines just like the layman does. People think that an artist is somebody who can do straight lines or can has pretty handwriting or whatever. Not necessarily true. Okay, I have my tablet slipping down on my lap. So look at that. Just about as straight as can be. Straight as an arrow. Okay, I notice we do have some darks in there. Some yellow, some darks like this, perhaps. And that's really dark. I could take the opacity down, but you know what? I think it'll be okay. And kind of paint over a little bit softly, reduce the value a little bit so it doesn't jump out, it doesn't pop out too fast. You get, it's kind of almost my focal point back there. So just adding that little accent color in here, getting just a little of those greens in here, getting a little bit of this gray in here. Getting a little bit of this blue in here. And we have these gray greens. Notice I say green, but it's really an aqua teal that appears more green than it actually is because of the surrounding cool color. It's a very interesting thing about color relativity. Like this appears green, doesn't it? Like this color right here. Look, that's what color it is. Okay, so let's get some shapes. Focus on shape. Shape is everything. Silhouette is everything. Don't let anybody tell you any differently. You get a little bit of these darks back here will suggest more mountains past that. It just goes on, on. Get it more purple. Higher value, a little more desaturated. Oh, a little more saturated. Yeah. Okay, what else do we need to do? Scanning. Let's get some of these tree limbs in here. What color are they? And just asking yourself that can help. Talking to yourself aloud, don't worry if you kind of feel crazy doing it. It's really good practice to do. So let's drop one in here. Drop a couple others. And we don't have to be exact. We're only using the photo for inspiration. I'm using it as a more or less loose guide. I'm not trying to make it exact, but I'm trying to be faithful to it. And that's a good place to start. I mean, do a bunch of those and then, try just experimenting and modifying your picture after that. Both are valuable exercises. So we have some of these cool greens, a bit lighter. We want it to just spill over that landscape there, just a little bit. Look at it, should be a little darker. Did it a little bit too bright. Come back in here with some of those blues. Good. Okay, what else? Good. Increase the size. Increase the size. Yes. I like this brush. What brush is this? This is a cool one because if you look at how I turn this up all the way, not all the way. See those striations? Really, really nice. Lovely thick paint kind of gesture. And if I go in here and make the texture size smaller or stretch, if I bring it smaller, I can get smaller and smaller striations. But that's a really, I love this brush. By the way, if you want my brushes, I got like 200 plus. Throw me $2 or $3 on, whatever, PayPal, Cash App, something like that, and I'll hook you up. Just to compensate me for all the time that I spent making them. And it wasn't just a matter of throwing textures in there. I mean, I had to modify them, play with alphas, erase out of them, add colors for the color effects, and that's a big part of how I got those that big paint kind of effect. Notice I don't have any color, whatever you call that, color saturation on. Oh, you can go all the way through to the max just by bringing your mouse. You used to not be able to do that. Anyways, little handy tricks. So what else do we need to do here? We're getting closer to what we can call the end. Although in a piece like this, you can really go on for seemingly ever. There comes a point where you got to say, okay, have I made my statement that I wanted to make with the piece? Have I said what speaks to me about it? I keep hitting undo until I get something that I'm happy with. I want to get like a brown, red brown, decrease the size, get lighter. A little lighter. Okay, now I'm adding a little bit of atmospheric, little bits of landmass, suggesting, always suggesting. And a foggy scene is wonderful because it is all about suggestion. That's perhaps what I love the most about it. They are the most difficult scenes to paint because you do have a lot of grays. And so the most important thing is to just get some colors down, and then your discrepancies will become more obvious to you. Okay, so just get some color notes down. Now you want to do the birds. Let's get some of these darks. Get those a dark red over there, red brown, beautiful color. My favorite new colors. Just those earthy, reddish browns. Gotta love them. They're all over nature. They're in human skin. They're, you name it. Just a beautiful, beautiful color. I am starting to get tired, so it is late. I do need to wrap this piece up soon. Let's see. Throw down a little suggestion like this. Delete that part. Add a little bit of a kind of grasses or something coming here. Attention to detail is important. It's not everything. I would rather see a great scene that is all suggested with no detail. And I'm not talking about like minimalist where you can't even make out anything at all. I mean, just that I'd rather see an impression, a good, well thought out, well felt expression and impression than trying to recreate and copy every little detail, because that's kind of overkill, in my view. I'm adding a little more pinks because this seemed a little bit muddy to me. Okay, now we're getting close, so this is where you want to ask yourself, what do I want to do? And here I need to deepen the value a little bit, make it a little more orange. Here, it's like every right step you take, it will inform your next right decision. Every wrong step you take, every wrong color and stroke and placement of drawing elements and everything else will misinform and misdirect your future steps. So it's important to go only as fast as accuracy will allow. That's a very, very important thing to keep in mind. There is no virtue in going fast. It is not a race, it's not a contest. And remember, it's like making love. It's all about the process, all about enjoying being in the moment. And not trying to rush to the end to get to the finished result. That is not what it's about. And if you're really in tune with yourself and your art, it does become like a spiritual experience, basically. And it becomes a part of your spirituality, of your soul. Like your soul manifests or expresses itself through your medium. And that's when you really get into fine artwork. It is fine. Now, the moment we've all been waiting for, wanting to get some of these birds in here, huh? Okay, what color is it? It's a grayed down, muddy looking brown. Maybe a little darker. A little darker. I think that's pretty close to the right color. And he's just kind of hanging out right in here, right? So like that, and then we can make his head a little darker. Just have got the slightest suggestion for a head, if I can. Something like that. And then the other one is considerably darker. Something like this. But I need to first clean up this area in which he'll sit, because there's it's kind of a lost edge in here where he's at. Oh, first let's take this color to these little mosh pits. It's a little bit lighter than him, so go ahead and add some of those. It's a little bit darker, try a lighter touch. Oh. And these are just resting back on that back bank back there. Notice we still haven't added all these And this is where you can really get carried away in trying to render every detail. But the poetry is in not resisting the temptation to render everything out. So definitely want to lean towards under-representing than over-representing them. Let's take these, get some of those on the edge. I don't know why it keeps jumping to like a yellow like that, but that yellow is an important color to get a little bit of the striations in there. I don't know why it just switches to it. Sometimes there will, to be honest, there will be something that happens in Heavypaint. Even now, it's like, how the heck did that happen? But you know what? That's part of what I love about this app is just the happy accidents that happen, and just how direct it is. You know, and a large part of that is the ability to use Shift and Alt as toggles to go to your blur and smudge tool and control for your erase. Like I can hitting control and it's erasing through that. Oh, I have a layer below this. Now notice something. You can merge down, but it'll say an experimental feature can cause crashes, deletes layer history. So it's these days it's pretty good, but there is still a risk. I'm going to delete that layer. It says no undo, so you can't get it back once you do delete it. And delete that layer. So now I'm just on. Oh, and look, I had some under layers that this messed with. Apparently, but it's not too bad, I guess. I'm just looking at what I lost just now. Not too much, I don't think. So it's okay. It's just something to be mindful of. Unlike me. We raise that up, get it darker, darker. Okay, we got these darks coming down. I am trying to wrap this up relatively quickly here at this point because it's very late and I am pretty tired. Once you get going on these, like you want to get to the end of it, but remember, it's not a race, and it's like making love. Enjoy the process, even if you're sleeping. Try to get that little branch back in there. Suggestion of a tree. Suggestion of a tree here. And then we do have a warmer red, darker in here. Gonna be a little toned down though. Trying to find the right. Well, part of it is that this blue needs to be darker. Not that dark, perhaps. Something like this, because these trees are close to the viewer, so it's angled going back into the distance that way. So these shadows are going to be more saturated, more blue. The closer you are, the more contrast you have in the shadows. Just add a suggestion of them here on the light side of these. Okay, here is where we get a little bit of grayness. Grayness gives that atmospheric quality. Same with the blues. Okay. Still want to get the feeling of these yellows. Bring it over this way. Lighten it up. A little more yellow. A little more gray. And then I'm going to try to just add a thing with a lighter touch back here. Add a little stronger note here and there. Okay, trying to think, what color is that? There's a little more reddish in that purple. So if I take this color, a little more purple in that. Don't want all your strokes to go the same direction. Vary the direction up. Cezanne used in a lot of his paintings, you'll see same directional stroke. That's a style that you can choose, that he chose, and that's fine. But to get a real natural look, it's good to vary your brushstroke direction, just like you vary your color choices and everything else. Variety is the spice of life, as they say, right? Okay. Just doing some housekeeping and focusing on the shapes, variation in shapes. Another thing that's important, you don't want same. At this distance, you're not going to get stray leaves so much or anything. It's pretty much silhouette. There are a few sky holes, so add those in where appropriate, like that. But again, I'm not trying to make an exact reproduction. Just a general. I want to render truthful effects, but I don't want to be literal. Overly literal. There we go. A nice blue. Nice blue. That's what I mean about enjoying your process, enjoying your colors. Get it a little darker. When it's right, you'll feel it. It's like a visceral thing. You can feel it in your bones when you hit the right note. Try tapping your brush. Good way to suggest foliage. It's too green. Too green. Need it more yellow. That's too bright. That's a good color to suggest some foliage in the light family there. Let's have the blues coming down over the top of them so that this becomes one large shape. Goes back like that. Then have some greens behind it so that it appears natural and fits into that scene. Okay. We want a little of this in here, and then let's go real dark with the blue, real dark. Not quite that dark, or that dark. Oops. No, I cannot redo after you. Okay, that's fine. Fine. Let's see. Let's get it a little warm. Trying to get that color variation in there that I see. Nice orange greenish color. The light's kind of hitting it. Tap, tap, tap. The foliage gets the color variation, value variation, I mean. Also, this color is good for tap, tap, tap. Lighter. Okay, back. It's messy and scratchy. We don't want it scratchy. Some of that foliage. If you look at the shadow shapes, they're countiform shapes. And then down here, we're going to get some more grayish greens. It's going to lighten up, gray up down here, right? Let's adjust that. Get a little darker, a little bit farther back in there. Now this down here gets lighter blue. And we can suggest that, hit the shift button and blend it, smudge it around. I smudge that tree upwards. That'll be fine. Blend, have a little blend mark on the other side of it, make them nice and skinny. Continue that grass down there. This is just like housekeeping, just little things I noticed that adds a little something to the scene. Make this smaller. And this is a little darker actually. A little darker. And let's just add suggestion for another tree in here. Sometimes it takes me a few times to kind of be happy with what I put down, and that's fine. It is not a race. Always tell yourself, remind yourself to slow down if you feel like you start getting into a rush. I mean, notice that my pace is what you might call a deliberate pace to work the scene up, but I'm not in a rush. You can tell while I've been talking, and I'm talking in real time. This is not a voiceover. I've kind of learned to do this pretty good just from practice of doing these, most of which I've not shared. But I feel like I'm at the stage now where these videos might help somebody else, and just getting into this program of Heavypaint, I feel is very valuable and can help people. So I know it's kind of intimidating, like what are all these things do and everything. So I hope this video helped some of you to feel like this is a software you can get your hands around and have fun with. And that's what art should be all about, is having fun while you are training and developing yourself. People think that training and has to be hard work and it's boring, but I have to do all these exercises. I've never believed that art should have to be like that, or learning art should be boring and tedious and a drag. Like, these studies are like, they will get you there, especially if you are conscious about what you're doing and try to remember some of the things that you're learning. Try to, commit them to your working memory so that they're there, so that you can access them when you need them. Get smaller. Put that orange in there. And there's these orange grasses coming up over the top there. Okay. Now, it's like a log here. Make it. Yeah, this is by far from perfect, but I am not after perfection. I'm after a good study, a good solid study. Color and light study. That's the goal. And that, by the way, is a very worthy goal. I made a group on Facebook called Color and Light Studies for Digital Artists. If you'd like to check it out, we're a group of, I don't know, at this point, like 13.5 thousand, might be 14 by now, I don't know. But we're a pretty big group, and so come and share your work. We need more people that are willing to put themselves out there and share their studies. That's what it's all about. We're not a judgmental group, and if I see somebody being mean, I will give them a warning and then ban them if they keep it up. So we try to keep it like a safe space for everybody, and I think it's one of the best art groups. I may be a little biased, but we moderate it heavily. There's like a ton of bots every day that are trying to join and constantly having to filter them out. So we don't really have much at all of a problem with spam and all that like a lot of these groups do. But yeah, like the name of the Facebook group is Color and Light Studies for Digital Artists. Let me check this out. So I'm gonna get that color. Oh, I'm gonna get more warm. Warm. Crazy how many greens there are. Just wanted this like treetop warm. Just a touch of it up here. I'm getting nitpicky now. It means I should stop soon. It's at this point where you have to say, well, like, what bothers me about the piece? Like, what do I want to see in here? Not so much what I like about the piece, because I like a lot about it. It's what bothers me about it. What do I need to, what would I like to see and hear more? Something like that. Something like that. Maybe a little more red, a little darker. Gives a little color variation. Little random details. It's a little bit hard edged, so I'm blurring it out a little bit. And that also creates more implied detail. And then using the Alt key, soften it up a little bit. Create a little bit of value. I made his head too big, but I kind of like the way it looks. You get little bit of this in here, a bit of reds. Some of those reds. Yellow on top. I'm building a cake. I don't like these striations. Looks too digital to me. I want a little bit of those dark browns in there. And probably not exactly like this, more like little shapes, something like that. And then carry it over for in between the blades of grass. The light's not hitting. And we get more of that red right over here. Red back here. I want to get some of those cool notes back here. That cool, warm interplay. Always an important part of art. And from the moment I saw this screensaver, I was like, this looks like a piece of art in itself. It looks like a Richard Schmidt painting. And really, now that I've done this digital study, I should turn it into an oil study. I need to do more of that, of transferring one media to another, doing a study in digital, and then that'll be good practice for little value variation in here, saturation variation. You want to vary everything. Saturation, value, colors. I want this color a little bit darker still. Like a little suggestion of that bank back there. Decrease the saturation, decrease the value a little bit. And you can look at your previous color to make sure you're decreasing whatever it is, value, saturation. Just by constantly decreasing these things. Okay, I'm seeing something. I want this to have a clear sense of jutting back in space by having some of these pools go horizontally like that. Oh, I want to come back here and jut up, then have a little bit of variation in here. And then I want to come in here like that. And I want some reds, just little pockets of red, little sections of red. I don't know why it's so hard for me to get red. Now these dark notes are important. They are alerting your eye. They're called depth cues that tell your eye this is close. And what that does is it pushes the rest of the picture back. These are greenish, called greenish grays. And I'm just recognizing them from my oil painting. But by practicing with these, you will get to learn colors well enough that you can say, oh, It's a greenish gray. And then know where to adjust on your color thingamajigger. Color box, as it's called. Okay, now for this we want something a little lighter, a little bit of blueness, light, something like this. There is a lot of detail in here, but I don't want to spell it all out. I want to suggest it all. I haven't done a lot of zooming out, or haven't done any of it really. That's okay. I think we made it work together here. Thank you for joining me on this journey. I really do hope you've gotten something out of it, and it's inspired you to do color and light studies first and foremost, and secondarily pick up this program. Try it out for free trial basis. You get like 30 days, and it's not even a hefty price or anything like that. And no credit card needed. Just go to heavypaint.com and hit your operating system and download the program. It's a really small, lightweight program. I think you'll love it. As you can see, it's powerful and simple, but it's everything you need to make some really great works of art.